Hello, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants Radio. I'm Nick Smith, joined by JD Greenhalgh in studio tonight. We've got a great conversation. We may have another guest join us. Ryan Morris may be stepping on a little bit later, but for now, we're going to dive right in and see what we can create with this conversation. Our topic tonight is how to develop your mind and raise your vibration. And I want to even increase that as to how to instantly raise your vibration the most powerful way. And this is something that I'm going to lean on JD for. And maybe we're going to come up with these answers as we talk. But I would first want to just welcome you to the show.
No, I appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so blessed to have you and Ryan both who come into my life. So being a part of Tribe and part of Tribe of Giants. And like I said, it's been a definite blessing. I don't think people could come into my life lately on accident.
Yeah, I love it. For those who are watching or listening, a lot of you will be listening on radio here on Cat Country. Make sure you share this. If you're not following us on YouTube or social media, you can follow us at Tribe of Giants on Facebook or on YouTube under Wake Up with Giants Radio or Wake Up with Giants TV. And so, JD, I'm going to dive in, as we go into the conversation here. Let's start with what this even means to you. When you're talking about developing your mind and raising your vibration, somebody that's listening might have no construct of that. So how would you lead them into that?
Well, the biggest thing is you got to step back first, and you got to look at yourself. You got to look at where you're at. And most people in this world, they're not content with where they are. They're not content with who they are. But a lot of people have a hard time looking at themselves and looking themselves in the mirror and say, hey, I'm lying to myself about this, or that you're truly not okay with this situation. Like, until you come to the cold hard facts that you don't want to change, nothing's going to change. So whether that be your mindset, or if you want to get better physically, we all could probably spend more time at the gym, right? And do different things, or eat healthier and different things. But those things in your life aren't going to change. Your finances aren't going to change. Your dream job's not going to change unless you decide at some point to tell yourself the truth. Like, hey, I need to stop watching Netflix all the time. I need to stop doing these things that are just fillers, because you're down on yourself to not move forward. Like, you have to decide to start taking that action and create new habits. And those new habits will lead to different outcomes in your life. And that goes with shifting your mindset, shifting to what can be, the possibilities that are available.
Yeah. So I know with a lot of us, we get stuck in these routines and habits. And so they become so automated that we're not aware of how we're showing up in the world. And so part of it is going to be that space that you need to create to slow down with what you're doing in the world. Because if you're unconscious, you have no clue what you're creating. You're just going, right?
Right. Well, it's like, again, like, there's that saying out there, shit in one hand and something else in the other, and see which one fills up faster,
Right.
And or, hoping to throw some shit at the wall and hope it sticks. It's just not how it works.
Right.
Sorry, my little one's interested about what's going on.
No, you're good. Hi, cutie. She's cutie. So yeah. So one of the things we teach in the Giants of the 12 journeys is unconsciousness. And we'll tie all this in, and so we're going to get into how to develop your mind around this and raise your vibration. So when you're unconscious to things, there's nothing to do with it. So there's nowhere to go. You're not even aware of it. And so a lot of times we'll be wishing for things, but then the behaviors are going, right? Like you're talking about, we're wishing in one hand, but we're trying to create from that wish. So we're just hoping that something comes along and maybe rescues us from our situation, maybe changes it, and we get lucky. We win the lottery in a sense. And so I'm wondering, if and I'll help you through this as we talk. I have my kids on occasion, and it throws me. So let me know how you're doing.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
I'm doing good. She's good.
So that somebody says show that beautiful baby. So yeah, I love it.
Everybody, this is Jada. She's
Hi, Jada.
2. She's just starting to learn how to speak words.
Hi, Jada.
Say hi. Wave.
We're pretty lucky. We got JD and Jada on here. Yeah.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. So how does somebody wake up if they don't know that they're doing something? So they're making these wishes and they want their life to be different, but they keep doing the same things. Like, how would you tell somebody or help somebody to wake up from that so they can start developing their mind? Because up until that point, there's just nothing to do.
Well, it comes to a point, the best way I would put it and ask yourself, are you insane? I'm going to ask that question straight up. Are you insane? And people may look at that like that's a confusing question, but the fact of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
It doesn't. You have to change things for things to go in a direction differently. And to recognize, like some people are naive. Like, let's be real about it. People are naive, or some people just simply don't want to hear the truth. There's ignorance because the truth can hurt, right?
Yeah.
It's taking you out of your comfort zone. I mean, we're not going to go down the political road right now, but look at what's going on around the world. There's people out there that are like, oh my gosh, we need to stand up against what's going on. And then you have people that are like, no, just leave me alone and let me live my life, and praying that things just get better and that things are going to change and that this is all just going to mellow out. We're going to go back to normal. Like, the reality is, unless you stand up and do a change or make a change, nothing's going to change for the better. It's going to keep controlling.
So this is where I want to help people through it, because I don't want to just talk through the conversation of this. I want to really bring up some actionable things that people can use in their lives to shift out of that apathy, out of that not doing, into doing. Because if you're feeling stuck and you're feeling insecure, kind of like an infomercial, right? Like, you feel like your life's going nowhere and you feel insane. Like, you're trying and doing things, but you're not getting any changes in your world, but you are unconscious that you're even doing the same thing. Like, you're still doing the same behaviors. Like, one of the things I would say is like you just said, recognize that you're stuck. Like, when you recognize that you're stuck, sometimes you can't work through it on your own. So you may need to reach out to somebody to help you wake up to that. Like, why am I stuck? What's going on within me that's having me show up this way? Yeah, go ahead.
I think with people, a lot of that too, a lot of people, when they get stuck or they want to reach out to people, just like I've been in that spot where financially at points in my life, I couldn't hire, people will be like, hey, so they'll reach out and they'll look at something and find something that might intrigue them, but then they'll want to go hire this coach or they want to help hire this person, and they'll find out that they need a lot of money to do it. And so then they get discouraged because a lot of people don't have the funds to be able to jump in and hire a $5,000 mentor.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've seen that happen. I mean, I've done it myself where I was like, yes, this person's really this is it. This is a perfect match. And at that point in my life, they're like, yeah, hey, to sign up for a mentor program, we have this 90-day trial for you. It's $2,000, or you can come do this mentorship for $5,000 or $10,000 a year. And it's like, as much value as I might get out of that, I'm like, and they're like, you just got to put it in your mind that the thought, that you're going to get this $10,000 for this and it'll happen. Just put it on a credit card. And that's where I feel bad, because I've seen a lot of people do that route too. And now they're $10,000 in the hole, and they're stressing about how they're paying that credit card payment.
Right.
And even if they're going to make it to these events now, like, there's a lot of things that happen. And so that's where I think a lot of people feel like misguided and misled, because they'll try to go do something, they reach out for help. And obviously time and people that have studied and learned mindset development, they have different steps or programs that you can be a part of that will actually truly improve your life. Yeah, they didn't put this stuff together because it should be free. Like, I mean, I do agree there's a value. You have to put a value on your time, right? But at the same time, there's got to be places where people can start. And the simple place to start is start reading. Like, that's a good place to start. You start finding self-help books on personal development. The 7 habits, the 7 highly effective habits. That's a great book to start with. The Secret is a great book to start with. Get Hard by David Goggins. Again, another great book to start with. The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Again, a great book to start with. Things that can take you to start changing your habits that you do in your life. If you just shift little habits and learn how to control and make the most of your time and get things accomplished, and count your wins that you're getting in the day, those small things will transition to where you're doing better at your job, or you might find that you have more time to do something part-time or something on the side to bring in extra income to eventually turn into a full-time income to get you away from that job, or whatever the goal may be. But if you don't start making changes, there's so many easy resources to start. And yeah, unfortunately, you can't sit there and ask the book questions. But as you read books and stuff, that's where you can start to discover these shifts, these patterns. And if you listen to them, it's just like going back to school. If you didn't, you learned things from the books we read in school, right?
Yep.
And when you took them and you applied them, you passed. You remember them. Like, I remember reading stuff from back in school, and if I wouldn't have read it, I wouldn't know the things that I knew, same thing. You don't know what you don't know. And that's where I wanted to take you to really quick. So I follow a thing called Your Wish is Your Command. And my journey with mindset and personal development started about 12 years ago. But I follow this, it's called Your Wish is Your Command, and it talks about like some of the higher up people out here. We're not going to get into it because some people, conspiracy theorists or not, but it talks about just some of the elite. But anyways, one of the guys that teaches this, he talks about the Freemasons, the Illuminati, those kinds of things, the Brotherhoods, different things like that, and which is intriguing, but it goes into all about your awareness. And so there's a few things you got to ask, and to be able to change your life and asking yourself once you recognize, and that's the thing, is helping people recognize that they need to change. And it's almost like, and I hate to say this, but because of also being on that podcast that we're on with the other side of addiction, there's people out there that finally come to a point realizing that they need help and they need to make a change. And then you got people that just don't want it, right? And if you try forcing them through it, the chances of them relapsing are pretty high, right? But those that decide that they finally want to be away from it and they want to make the change, usually they have a better chance of successfully staying sober. It's the same thing with everything in life. You have a choice. But you have to decide and tell yourself that, hey, this is an issue and I'm willing to make the change. And so we all have what's called a teachable index. And what it is it bases on a scale from 1 to 10. And it's just being honest with people. Like, there's different things of what you're willing or willing not to do to be able to make changes in your life. And one of them, it starts off, is how high is your willingness to learn on a scale 1 to 10? Are you willing to learn new things to change your life? Are you willing to learn new things and apply them, right? So what are you willing to do to make those changes? Are you willing to give up Netflix? Are you willing to give up PlayStation? Are you willing to give up, certain times of your day to be able to spend 5, 10, 15 extra minutes doing something else, whether it be reading, meditating, connecting with other people on if you're going to use social media, use it as a tool. Connect with like-minded individuals that have been where you're at and you want to change your life. The other one is what are you willing to sacrifice? And that kind of goes in with what you're willing to do. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up? A lot of people really aren't willing to give up their binging after work. They get off at work at 5 p.m. They want to go home. They want to eat. They want to sit there and turn on their favorite show on Netflix or whatever, And so you have to be able to willing to give up some of the stuff and the time to be able to commit to where you want to head. And then you got to ask yourself, are you truly committed? Are you truly committed to not going golfing every weekend? Are you willing to cut out not eating fast food all the time? Are you willing to cut out the Starbucks coffee and go buy yourself a coffee pot and make coffee at home? Like, you don't have to give it up, but what are you willing to change to cut back? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you have to ask yourself, if you in those areas, if you're willing to sacrifice, like, I'm not ever going to be a 10 because the last thing I will sacrifice is my children. Like, I will not tell them, hey kids, I can't do anything for you or with you for the next year. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to suck, but there's something you just can't get back that time. And I've seen it. Right. I don't want to miss out on those things because of that. So that is, I'll never hit a 10 on what I'm willing to give up. I'm willing to give up everything else. You can take my whole life. You can take my car, you can take my house, you can take everything but my wife and kids. Like, that's like, I have to make sure that I give them some quality time with that. That's
so
it.
I'm thinking on this, that there are, I don't know, times in your life where you're going to grind and you're going to push through and you're going to give up these things and you're going to have this limit of resources to be able to stay with that long enough for it to come about. Right. Mm-hmm. Like the marshmallow experiment, they gave these kids a marshmallow and they said, if you can hold out and delay, then we'll give you a second one. And most of the kids failed at holding out for the second marshmallow. Most of them just ate the marshmallow. In our lives, it's often that way. Like, we have a limit to how long we can resist things, right? If it's I'm going to do this because I want this thing, but I'm going to give up this other thing. We might want that other thing more. And so giving it up could be really hard. And energetically, we're going to fall back into the same patterns.
Right.
And so what I prefer to do, my way of doing it is to do things a little bit at a time, to accept that I am where I am, first of all, that I am exactly where I am. And whether it's messy or it's going in the right direction, it doesn't matter. It's just acceptable. It is what it is. And somebody mentioned earlier, addicts don't want the help because it's not the substance that's the problem. It's what's behind it, right? I would imagine there's other thoughts and emotions and feelings going on that they're masking from and running from, so they don't want to face those. And so, if you can accept yourself where you're at and you have others that accept you where you're at, that helps, right? It's not a requirement, but it definitely helps. When we feel accepted, we want to do more. And then just easing into it a little bit each day, a little bit here, a little bit there. What are your thoughts on that?
No, and I agree. I agree. A lot of things, and a lot of where we end up is because of things that have happened or something that we've been taught throughout our lives. A lot of people as we grow up, a lot of people, I'm sure you've heard it, but mom and dad, when you wanted something, dad will say, we don't have money, or money doesn't grow on trees, or money's the root of all evil, or
Yeah.
What do I look like, Rockefeller? Like, it's just that's the mentality, and so people get programmed at an early age of how things are, and then when they're going through life, it's like, no, this is life. I go to work, I pay my bills, we're barely surviving, and they know they want change, they know they want more for themselves. We're meant to all be here to prosper. Everybody's got that itch inside them. I do believe that everybody has that feeling inside them. They're meant for something greater, but they're stuck in a comfort zone where, like, okay, everything's okay, it's not how I want it to be, but it's going well, right? But they'll sit there and do that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
They won't make a change.
Yeah.
And so I do believe it stems from, but also to, like you said, recognizing, like, how, when you were taught when you were younger, or maybe an experience they went through. It's just the same thing with an addict. You could have had something that, I've had to battle through things. I mean, we talked about my story last time, but I grew up in a house with some abuse and alcoholism and drugs, and growing up with that stuff surrounding me. And yeah, as I got older, I didn't really understand how it affected me until I hit about 30 years old. Like, I didn't understand. I was like, I always just kind of had like this, almost like an emotionless, just bury it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did a show this morning on perception and what perception is, right? And this is one of those things that you're talking about, is you're raised a certain way, and money is this, and life is this way. And so we create values on that. And then those values are heavily anchored in thoughts and emotions around certain topics. And so you might have different values on different things in your life because we're multifaceted, and you might have different values from somebody else. But then we create our beliefs from that, and then that creates our perceptions. And so if somebody has a belief that it's hard to create something, they're only going to see as far as their beliefs. And so when they go to change their life, they're going to have this belief system that's going to get in the way. And it's not a shaming thing. Like, the last thing I want for anybody is to feel shamed around the way they're being right now. Like, you're being the way you're being. And I think the way to develop your mind is to recognize that whatever you're at, wherever you're at, has to be okay, even if it's not okay. Right. And it doesn't mean you have to stay there and accept it and love it, just, I'm going to move in, accommodate it. But it's a recognition that it is what it is. And then from there, you can start to give yourself grace and start to develop yourself in a new direction. Because I'm going to talk about the brain for a minute, if I can. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there something else you wanted to share before
No,
I do that?
I wanted to add on to that right there. And that's something, again, that I had to realize. And that comes in, it talks about it in all these books that it talks about. And actually it even goes into if you're religious or not. And that's completely, obviously, wherever anybody's faith's at. But it talks about that in the Bible right there is the key factor that's missing in a lot of this is the gratitude. And a lot of these books actually talk about it. And, like, even though you might be in a situation where you don't have a lot of money, or you don't have the car that you want, or you don't have a car at all, or, whatever the situation may be, it could be the tightest, and you're just miserable. But the reason in that aspect too, like you said, it's shifting that mindset, but recognizing where you are, but also to being grateful and having true gratitude and saying thank you for what you have.
Yeah.
There's a saying, again, if you're not grateful for what you have, and I can't remember what chapter it is in the Bible, it's Matthew's or something, I think, anyways, but if you're grateful for what you have, you will receive more.
Okay.
But if you are not grateful for what you have, what you have will be taken away from you.
Okay. So I want to dive into this a little bit. So what somebody's saying right here, that, we don't get to justify where we're at. So gratitude is going to be a part of it, but also ownership, right? Like
Yeah.
the idea that your childhood, your development is not an excuse for your bad behavior. So if you got behavior that's not beneficial or not useful, you don't get to go back in childhood and say, well, it's because of that, because some people can do that.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying here is that if you accept that that's where it came from, then that's where it came from. That's it. That's all you're doing, is acknowledging that's where it came from. But there's an allowance and some space that it is what it is. But then from there to create it differently, and diving into the brain now and how that works is, I mean, every neuron that you have took time to stretch out, connect with other neurons, fire. As it fired, it would get supported by glial cells, and it would fire faster and faster and faster. And then eventually it got to the point that you could do it without thinking. There was no conscious effort in it. So very
Right.
low cost of energy. But when you started, there was a really high cost of energy to change it. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about giving up certain things or doing it long enough to create a new behavior, there's going to be a period where you're not very good at it, and you get to stick with it. But then it comes back to, which behaviors are you feeding? Which ones are you giving your attention to and your energy to? Because those are the ones that are going to be automated. And are they
Right.
really the ones you want automated? So like if you have the story and you go automatically to the story, well, I can't change because of my childhood. That is so strong in you that you're almost unconscious to it. And so it becomes an excuse. But when you can become aware of it and shift it, that's when you start to see a transformation in a new direction. What do you think as you hear that?
Yeah, no, I think firing the neurons like you're talking about, and actually that goes to, again, another part. I just want to quickly connect with what you said about
Sure.
consciousness.
Yeah.
But there's 4 steps of the process that we go through for information, and the first process we ever go through is the unconscious incompetence. This is when you don't know what you don't know. If you
Okay.
simply don't know it, and it's never come to your mind or your forefront, you'll never know about it, right? So you have no neuron to program because you didn't know, or you
Right.
didn't know that there was something that from your past that you recognized, take ownership for it to be able to move forward. If you didn't know that or didn't figure that out, you would never know because you didn't know. The next part is conscious incompetence. This is when you know that you don't know. So understanding that you know, you want change, but you don't know why, what stemming or what it is stemmed from. Does that make sense? Why you are the way you are, or what your situation is, figuring that out. And then you go into a conscious competence. This is where you know that you know. So now that you know and you recognize that you know, now you got to take that ownership and you got to change it. And it's the same thing with, I'm going to just tie this in with something simple. It's like tying your shoe, right? If you didn't know that you didn't know how to tie a shoe, you wouldn't know, right? And then you know that you don't know how to tie a shoe. And then you start consciously learning how to tie a shoe, and you know that you can tie that shoe, but you have to think about it, cross it,
Yeah.
underloop it, moving
Yeah.
forward. And then you got the last step in this whole thing, which is unconscious competence. This is when you know, and it happens automatically. It's on autopilot. I mean, how many times have you hopped in the car and drove home, and you're like, I don't even know how I got here?
Yeah. Yep.
It's on autopilot. And that's the same thing, is it's creating these neurons. You have to create these habits. And that's why they say, I've heard 28 days, I've heard 3 months, I've heard a year to create a new habit. But you have to create these neurons to fire in a direction in creating new habits. You want to quit smoking, you count down. I love the Mel Robbins book because it's the 5-second rule, but you do things in small increments.
Right.
5
Right.
seconds or 15 minutes. You make it 15 minutes without a cigarette, or you make it 15 minutes with meditating, or your wins for the day. You hit a green light, whatever it may be. You just look at something positive for the day and you count it, and you're starting. You don't know what you don't know, so you're learning. So now you'll know that you don't know that stuff. So you start practicing it to learn it, right? So now you consciously, that you know, until it becomes that you've retrained and reprogrammed those neurons to fire and create that new habit to do those things.
Right. So I want to hit on this because you're hitting on a lot of the step-by-step, the logical. That's what I have a tendency to do, is hover right in here. I want to know the how to, and when you're talking about getting a book and reading a book. If somebody doesn't even have the money for a book, Google is still free. YouTube is free. Like I'll sit down and sometimes I'll grab my phone and just say, "Hey Google," and start asking questions and dive into that world. But I want to know all this information and this how to. But there's another component to it that really kind of throws us off, and that's the affect, the emotion of it, right? Because you're talking about raising vibration, that dives into a more of a spiritual world, that dives more into the emotional world. Whereas the knowledge is going to be like developing your mind and how it works and understanding that. And I think there does need to be a blend of the two. And maybe in the second half of this show, we'll talk more about that, about the vibration of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. What's coming up?
No, I was just saying, again, the same thing. Like logically, like a lot of people, we react one of two ways. It's either logically or emotionally, right? And that's where the victimizing comes in, and we can point blame at things. But again, you got to become aware of your conscious mind, and this is where neurons and stuff, the energy, like again, just the fact of vibrations, mind, body, and soul, you bring those all together and you help raise your vibration. And there's things that you can do, activities such as meditating, writing things down. And this goes into quantum physics. Like I love quantum physics and talking about energy because it's actually, I'm reading stuff about Tesla, not Tesla, Elon Musk, actual Tesla, the inventor, right? And things that he did. And he lived by the rule of 3, 6, and 9. That was a number. It's a triangle, bringing unity. And we'll go into that here into the second half. But it all pulls into the law of attraction and being able to if you want to make shifts, you want to make change, how you can actually truly, you have to take action. You can't just think like this is what I want, I'm putting it down, and it's just going to come to me. Like you have to be taking action. And a lot of people will focus on the how. And actually, it's not the how to worry about, but you have to be taking action in your life.
Okay.
Like if you're not preparing yourself mentally, you're not preparing yourself and bringing those neurons in the right place to raise those levels and raise those vibrations, everything works off of frequency. You know, when you attract things, I'm sure there's things that you've wanted really bad in your life and you've thought about it clearly, almost like pictured like you actually owned it. Once you believed it to that point, did you feel like that came into your life?
Pretty quickly. Yeah. In a lot of cases. And it took that clarity to get there. And getting that clarity was a practice. And that's where, you know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, focus on the spiritual and everything will work out. Focus on the spiritual. And I think we're dual in the sense that we're humans and we live in a world that requires us to pay attention to this world. Otherwise, you know, like if we don't eat, we're going to die.
Right.
We got to eat. We got to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in water and you're going under, you got to get back to oxygen. And so learning how to adapt to this world is important. So knowing how your body and your brain work is really important because it helps you to step more into the spiritual side because you're going to take care of those physiological needs, you know, and so why don't we pause for a minute? We're going to take a break here for the radio show. And when we come back, we'll carry on the vibrational, the more emotional side of this, if that works.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say before we go to break?
No, like I said, again, it's just everybody's got to start somewhere, you know, and the fact I truly believe we don't live in a world where people are supposed to suffer. I don't. I think people are programmed. I think it's taking people from being a lion or a sheep to a lion or a wolf and thinking for themselves and understanding that the brain is and the soul, the spirit, the mind, everything is such a powerful tool. But just like you hit it right there, we're human. Everybody here is entitled. Just because, you know, talking about this stuff doesn't mean, and Nick, same thing. You know, there's days you probably go through and you become more consciously aware of it, but you have your days where that person might cut you off down the road and you're just like, hey, there you go, buddy, you know, throw them the bird, or it just, you know, you stubbed your head hit your head on something, whatever. There's things, you're a human being, you know, somebody could have said something that just didn't rub you well, so it might have pissed you off. And recognizing it and that you've trained your mind to recognize it quicker, that helps shift your mind back into a positive state, is important. You're not going to wallow in it for days or weeks, you know, and hold this grudge against that guy. But you're still human. You have entitlements to have those days, but you're consciously aware of it to be able to focus on the change and move forward.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to break. And when we come back, we'll continue talking about the body-mind connection, raising your vibration and developing your mind. And we'll have Ryan R. Morris joining us in studio in just a minute.
Sweet.
So we're going to go about 2 minutes. We can just chit chat about things. I saw this post here. It just says, let's see, is crying a positive or negative emotion? This is where I think people get hung up, is positive and negative. Let me bring Ryan in. What's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, good looking.
Good. Hey, sunshine.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready.
So the idea of positive and negative, right? It could be more stated as useful or unuseful. Crying is actually beneficial for the body. It helps get the body back into homeostasis. So your parasympathetic nervous system is what helps regulate the emotions when they're intense, and so it's necessary to balance out your body. So I think it's useful, rather than right or wrong or positive or negative. It's just useful.
No, I think crying and stuff, again, all of us being grown men, we've all had moments where we broke down, right?
Yeah.
And so I think crying can be a very important tool and important emotion that we all need to have. We all need to be able to let things out. A lot of us as men, we'll hold it in because we're supposed to have that. We're that man. We don't cry. We don't do that, I mean, kids can count they can't even count on one hand how many times my sister is probably the only time they see me cry when she died. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't happen. You put that out that you got to be this strong person. Actually, and I think it's a true belief to why suicide's so high. Yeah, amongst a lot of people.
We should talk about the emotion on the other side of this, because
we will.
I think it's super powerful to get into.
We're about less than a minute out from going back into the show.
So give me just 1 second.
So they can edit. You bet. Yep, go ahead.
Hey, Giants.
Hey,
it's been a minute.
Morris. Welcome back.
Oh yeah, that's how I do.
In fact, I should have broadcast this out to a few more places, but we will do that next time.
Awesome. Okay, I got you.
All right. Welcome back to Wake Up with Giants Radio. I'm Nick Smith, joined in studio by JD Greenhalgh and Ryan the Lion Morris. And so if you're just joining us, we're catching up on developing the mind and the importance of knowing how your body works so that you can work with that as you change your behaviors. In the second half of the show here, we're going to talk about emotions. And there's a running joke. I don't know if I'll bring it up inside of the radio show, but one of the comments here. JD, let's bring it back in. Let's talk about the emotional side of this, because physiologically we have things that we need to do in the world to survive it. Right. So knowing how the body works is important, because you want to work with your body to transform your world around you. And so when you understand how chemicals work and how neurons are developed and your brain develops, that's important, because that'll give you the belief, or maybe help with the belief, that you can create something new. But there's another part, the emotional side. And I want you to dive into that. Why is that important? When you talk about raising vibration, to me, that's more the emotional side, the spiritual side. Am I off on that?
I think it actually honestly takes a great effort from both sides, to be honest, because you got to be consciously aware, and you got to be aware in your mind that you're wanting to make these changes, and that you are wanting to attract those vibrations, and you have to logically learn to do that. Now, on the emotional side, you're going to go through emotions and stuff, I'll be honest, I've had my breakdowns trying to get up, and as I'm growing into where I want to be, as you guys know, I want to be a speaker. Like, I want to speak. I want to get out there, and I want to teach. I want to educate. I want to help people around the world. But in this journey and stuff over the last 12 years of me working my way and connecting with people and stuff, I've hit points of going through bankruptcy. I've hit points where I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to put food on the table, and have had my moments where I've had to break down and cry, and understand that there's been times that I've had to reach out for a hand to help. And people need to understand that it's okay. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to ask. It's okay to get guidance, because it's out there. There's people that are out there. Like I said, I truly believe as human beings, most people, and I say most very cautiously, but most people, we want to help others. We want to help our fellow men and women. When we see somebody struggling, like, in our hearts, even if we're not capable of able to help them, most of us have a tendency in our hearts where we want to help them. There's that emotion. And the same thing goes when you're going through those changes in life, and you go through those moments, or you feel like you're doing it alone. Crying is not, like you were talking about earlier, but being able to cry, being able to let those emotions out, being able to have a breakdown. You know, we all are entitled to them. And if you don't, you let that stuff bundle up, it actually can lead to other things that psychologically are not safe for you.
Well, this comment here, I love this. If men weren't supposed to cry, then why do we have the emotions that cause us to want to cry? Like, absolutely that. Because if we weren't meant to be angry, we wouldn't be angry. If we weren't meant to be sad, we wouldn't be sad. If we weren't meant to be happy, we wouldn't be happy. These are all chemical responses to our environment, and I think they serve a use.
Oh, yeah.
I think of depression. Depression is one of those things that I've thought through my life. Oh, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to feel down. I don't want people to know that I'm struggling. But depression is one of those things that's useful. It actually helps you to stop putting energy into things that aren't working in your life. It helps you to re-engage with life in a new way. So if you want to look at a tool that will actually help you to move in another direction, look at depression. Anxiety helps you to plan ahead. If we didn't plan ahead, we'd walk around aimlessly and we'd be all eaten by tigers by now. Like,
right.
So being able to have some fear of the future helps.
No, it does. And it's the unknown. The unknown is that's what the journey is. You don't know. You know, I didn't know, freaking 8 weeks ago that Nick and Ryan were going to roll into my life, freaking.
Whoops. there's no, no
what
go
up,
backs.
JD?
No do-overs.
Right? No, but I do believe because of the action, right? Hey, I won't take it back. I'm very grateful for it.
Oh, thank you.
But being that you don't know, and so the emotions and stuff, and I don't think if I've been open up and had been vulnerable like I have been with working with the show with Al and put myself out there, like, I mean, I feel, and just like you guys, I'm sure you guys feel, but you've really truly finally put yourselves out there and become vulnerable. Like, that's the other thing is men, being able to have, like you said, that emotion to why do we have the emotion of the feeling, the need to cry, or why we get angry or other things. We also too have that we have to be vulnerable. We have to be. If you're not vulnerable, it's you're not letting things in. You're trying to put that whole toughness shield on.
Yeah.
You got to admit your faults. You got to admit where you need help.
You remember, Ryan, back, when I started doing the videos, that was really hard for me to start doing live videos and start talking about my life and be raw about what's going on and what I'm working through. I feel like I moved away from that. There was a period where that was useful and it served. And then I started getting, more of a following, and I started closing off, like, I don't want people to know my whole story. I got to be a little more guarded. But the truth is that unguardedness, that vulnerability, opening up my heart is where I experience the most growth. I mean, because it's truthfully, it's owning what's going on inside of here. Because a lot of times we don't want anybody to know that, so we don't own it. Like, we're not honest about it. We put it out there like, that's not me. I'm stoic. I don't feel emotions. I'm a dude. I pound my chest. But man, how many times have we cried on this show?
Yeah, I think the emotion, it does a couple things, and for me, it helps me to move through certain things as well, to fully feel it and to allow it to be, because it is what it is. It also helps me to recognize too that I am human, and it gets me personally in touch with my humility. It also allows for that grief in a lot of cases, where I can allow the emotions to come through. I can grieve them, fully feel them, and then move through it. And inside of that, and on the other side of it, I find growth.
Right.
And then as far as the vulnerability, because I've cried a lot on this show, it is true. a lot.
It is true.
I know, believe it or not, behind this rugged exterior is a gooey center. Right. But I've cried a lot. I've cried a lot on this show, and but the vulnerability behind it also shines a light. It shines a light on those shadow places, on those dark places, on those spots where then after that, I mean, I don't feel embarrassed anymore to cry. I don't, in front of people.
Yeah.
I did, because of some of the judgments and my fears and my own worries, and the stories that I was telling myself, but I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
Nick does. Nickel tear up. I've seen a tear or two come out of this guy. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's been a moment, I feel like affect, right? The idea that our emotions are impacted by things outside of us, and attitude kind of interplay. Like I think of where you're at, JD, and I hear your kids in the background. For me, in that situation, as I'd be experiencing that, I'd be stressed out. I'd be like, oh, what, going through this energy, and there would be an effect, right? Which says that we're human, that we're going to be impacted by things external to us, right?
And you know what I say, man?
Go ahead.
They're kids.
They're kids, right? Like the attitude, that's attitude, what you just did. Like, this is where I think there's a big opportunity for people, is because we feel the emotions from things that happen externally, but that attitude shifts that emotion into something different and more powerful. So you want to talk about raising your vibration. Even the statement, they're kids, right? Like, I'm human, shifts the energy almost instantly. When I can be accepting of, wow, I was impacted by something outside of me. That happened, right? That's acceptance. It doesn't make it right or wrong or anything. It's just a recognition that happened. And then your attitude is what turns it into something more powerful, more useful. Hi.
This is my daughter, Bentley.
Hi, Bentley. So that's awesome. How are you?
Jada.
Hi, Jada.
And Bailey.
Oh, hey.
Oh, wow.
So my army is here.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
They're just laughing and running in the background. So it's, again, I don't want to be that.
There's nothing.
I'm going to ask you guys to go that way and try to be quiet.
But the energy of it, like that is a demonstration of attitude right there. Because, like, I think of, man, I don't know why I'm going blank right now, but my mind sometimes will do that lately. Victor Frankl. Yeah, I'm getting there. No, man, I'm getting
That's what I was going to say. Oh, man, there.
But Victor Frankl, he says that regardless of the situation, you get to choose your attitude in any circumstance. And so we look at the world. We were talking about the world earlier, and how it could feel chaotic. But the feeling of chaos is determined by one's attitude. Like the affect, the event that's going on out there is the event, whatever it is. What it means to you is what it means to you. Like, I could be in the same experience as you, or the same event as you, and have a totally different experience because of my attitude.
Right.
And so I think it's really important that when you recognize your feelings, because some people don't even know that what they're feeling, so they numb out. Like, I don't want to feel this, so they numb out. They get addicted to things. And when somebody says, it's not the substance, it's the thing behind the substance. It's what's going on inside of you. This is the greatest opportunity, is when you feel your emotions, like, let them be present, invite them in like you would your kids,
Right.
We talked this morning, Nick, on the show about perception and how that shapes your reality, the way that you see things and the way that you view things. And inside of that is as a choice every time.
Yeah.
You talked about curating your Facebook wall, and how somebody could say, well, oh, this Facebook it's terrible. All I get is negative. Right. All I see is negative. Right.
Right.
And so as you're clicking on different news stories and different people that have different opinions, that's what you keep getting, because Facebook goes, hey, well, that's what you're going to get. It's not much different in the universe. The way that the universe works is very, very similar.
Right.
And you can curate your wall. I started putting positive things. I started following people like Shauna Lee, like Hugh, like Carrie, like Diane, and like Diana, and who else is on here? Quick, I'm just scrolling back up.
I'm blanked on some of them, but
yeah, some of them are coming through, and they're just coming through as Facebook users. But Facebook users that we have are positive people. I know it because they hop on here. Guys like Alex, that hop on and say positive things. And so guess what fills my wall? Those positive things. It raises my vibration
too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just they fill your wall. Like, what do you want on your wall today? We do it with social media. Look at how much time we spend there, JD. Right. Like, how different would your life be if you put that kind of attention into something that you wanted to create for your life?
Yeah, we
Right.
intentionally put ourselves in front of JD's, in
Right.
front of Al Richards. We put ourselves in front of giants, absolute powerhouse giants. And Stephen McGee. I've got his brother's shirt on right here too,
Yeah.
because those people that we hang around, they raise our vibration.
I didn't remember what I wore today, so I had to, it
Look down.
wasn't that.
We still got pants on, so that's good.
Yeah. Pants on. Good to go.
And
Good for
hey,
you.
and I agree
don't.
with you too. I know you don't, Hugh,
Just kidding.
but I'm assuming that's Hugh. But
Yeah.
I know I understand that completely, and but
Yeah.
that's the type of people that that I hang around, is people that want to help. They want to help other people grow. I get around those people because guess what? Selfishly, it really does help me grow. So then
It
I
does.
can help
Yeah.
turn around and help more people as well.
JD,
No,
what comes up? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead
I
with
was
your
just
thought.
gonna say, and just feeding on that, again, talking about being vulnerable and allowing these people to come in and stuff. The other thing is it's got to be genuine.
Yeah.
When you put off genuine, I can't tell you, I've been to a lot of talks where I've worked with a lot of people, or just other people, some people that have come through and talked on the station and stuff. And I think everybody is very passionate in their own way and stuff. But you just dealing with people in business, just like how we do deal with people, especially in sales, right?
Yeah.
You got people out there in sales, and I'm just going to use it because it's the industry I'm in. You got the salesmen out there that they don't care. They look at people like they're $1 and that's it. They don't have any emotion. They don't have any. They'll lie their teeth off and treat people a certain way, and that's how they are, But then you have the people out there that are truly genuine, people that want to truly help, or they want to do honest business, or they just in character. That character goes a long ways. And that's how you seeing yourself, like, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want to, what example do you want to set for the people around you? What example do you want to set for your children? And so, like,
Yeah.
that's part of raising your vibrations and your awareness and that vulnerability, being vulnerable. Like, my son, he's 13 years old, but he's read The Secret, the teen version. Like, he's done that stuff, He's gone through different things. He wants to be a professional baseball player now, which I completely support. But he's talked about wanting to go to law school and do different things like that, but he would never, I don't think those intentions would be there, or the thoughts of that stuff, if I hadn't been practicing this stuff for the last 12 years. I'm trying to raise
Right.
my personal vibrations.
And it's impactful. They see it, they experience it. They may not know the words for it, but they can feel it. Right. And I think of the book, when I wrote the book, The Giants and the Smalls, I wrote that from a space of heart, right? There was a lot of emotion. I would feel the emotion of that book. I would cry through that book. I would be writing parts of it and I'd be in tears. Right. I think of there's a movie called Romancing the Stone, and she's writing her book, and at the end of it, she's
Nick's
bawling.
favorite show.
Right. That was me writing that book. But there are other times where I'm purely mental. Like I'm all knowledge, no heart. And the difference in connection between the two is huge. Like there's no comparison. There are a lot of people that know a lot of things in the world.
No,
But the people that
absolutely.
make the biggest impact are the ones that are able to connect with the vibration, the heart, the emotion, and bring what they know into a space where people can connect with that. They feel it, because those emotions really dictate our behavior. What we feel is what we tend to act on.
Right.
So
That's where, when a lot of people in their vibration and stuff, people usually will respond to life out of fear.
Yeah.
People are scared of losing their job. People are scared of not having the money to pay the bills, those kinds of things. So when people are living in that state of mind, it's hard for people
Joan
to...
Wilder. Just kidding. Keep going. I throw you off.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
But just people being able to connect, they don't use their heart in that moment. Most people, again, are motivated by fear, when you should be motivated by love. Like, you really should. Love and gratitude.
Can I shift that word? Can we say could be instead of should be? Like, I feel so much shame around the word should, like you could be out of love. You could be acting out as a possibility, right? More than what you have to do or need to do. I think it's so easy to get caught up on, you need to do this, you have to do this. And there's so much shame associated with that. Hopefully it's okay for me to throw that in there. Just of the possibility you could experience something different. You could.
Right. I just seen a message come up asking me what the most valuable thing is that I've learned, right?
Yeah.
Or that I have discovered.
Yeah.
And the most valuable thing, in all honesty, is I used to have a very short fuse. So, like, the easiest, simple, if it was not with common sense, like, my fuse was short. It'd be lit, and it's one of those ones that you just couldn't put out. Like, you lit it, that's it. You don't got a warning, like, nothing. Like, hey, you're making it mad.
Yeah.
But, and my wife's saying that I still do. My button's harder.
I used to about 5 seconds before now.
My button was a lot hard. My button's a lot harder. It
Now
takes
on.
a lot more. It takes a lot more. I'm not saying the fuse is short. The fuse can still be short, but
she's like, "What kind of show are you on? Like, this is all BS, man."
We need to talk to your wife.
That's fine. She's right here.
Oh, sure.
But what I mean by that is, like, I've learned patience. You know, like, I've always been a person that has always, and there's things that I'm not patient on. I'm still learning, but I've had to learn delayed gratification. Because I don't want something, I want it now. And I've always used it. There's a book out there called Power versus Force, and I've always been a person that's just forced my way through. Like, this has got to happen. How am I going to do it? Get out of my way. I'm going to make it happen. And it's usually because I've been pushed, though, because of an obligation, not because it's something I want. It's because, oh shit, rent's due, this is due. So, but taking that patience in the process, and learning that patience has been huge. So being able to understand that, and that the things that aren't in my control, like, I just need to accept they're not in my control. That's something else that's very valuable. If it's not in your control and you have no control over it, don't try to make it your control. Whatever the outcome is, when it happens, it'll happen. But if it's not in your control, if you put it in a box where you're trying to control something you can't control, then you're just putting attention and energy to a place that it's not going to do you any good but be stagnant. And so I've been able to help and learn that if it's something I can't control, like, I just need to move on from that, move and focus on what I can control, on the goals that I want to get done, and things I need to accomplish that I can physically take care of. And it actually seems to those things that I don't have control over actually start to dwindle away, or they just end up disappearing pretty much completely.
Yeah, I think I have a tattoo on my arm. It's of two wolves, a dark wolf and a white wolf. And there's a story that goes with it. It says the one you feed, but I don't like that story. I have my own version of it, that it's that you need both. Like, I feel like I shine the most when I'm in my darkest. Like, I feel more empathetic and compassionate in my lows than I do when I'm in my highs. Yeah. And so it's interesting that there's this dance, even with the body and the emotions, the heart. There's a dance between what you know and what you feel, and it's constant. And sometimes we go into the space of knowledge. Sometimes we go into the space of pure heart. Sometimes we're both, and it's powerful. But to ignore one over the other, I don't see the usefulness in that.
No, I think we all have.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think everything has to be intertwined, because it's the same thing. Like, people out there in a bad relationship. I'm just going to use that because what you're talking about just makes me think about that. Because in your mind and stuff, you can be like, fuck, see ya, I'm out. Yep. Your heart's like, oh, you don't want to hurt her or hurt him, and you can't do that. You're, whatever. And so you're like, all right, well, we ain't going to do that route. In your head, it's like having the devil and the angel on your shoulder.
Right.
So you have to be able to have both. It's like, again, you're wolf, you got the white and you got the black. I've got the same thing. I've got an angel of death on my arm, and it's not for, like, people are like, oh, you got that. It's like, no, everything I have on me is his story. It's a reason. It's to remind us we all have a dark place in ourselves. We all have a place of despair. We've got that side that, people is people. I mean, it'd be so easy to turn and take the non-moral road.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being real.
Yeah, I see it. Ryan, did you have some thoughts before I dive in?
Just quick. Yeah. He had said something about forcing, like forcing things too. Yeah. And as I've found through my vibration is when I try to force certain things through, when I think it's got to be this way or my way, if it seems like it doesn't happen, or I hit roadblocks. I mean, Nick and I have talked about this a lot with the Giants as we push in certain areas. It almost seems like we come across resistance. But when we decide, hey, look, let's go back to what we love, which is service and humility, kindness. The reasons why Nick posted this today inside of the Tribe of Giants on Facebook is that always remember why we're doing what we're doing. And as we go back into that space, more things open up, and we saw that is true as some doors opened up to us just recently, that we were just blown away, that they just came flooding in.
Yeah.
It almost seems like coincidental or serendipitous,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's the universe going to work and helping us through this, and that
Only
as
when
we
we
raise,
only when we set ourselves aside though. Like
yeah,
when I get into ego, I need to do this for me. Things shut down. Our tribe shuts down. The energy of the tribe shuts down. I mean, you were talking about finding ways to learn, and that's one thing we've tried to create here, the space where people can learn at their level, at their affordability, right? There's no fee for these videos.
Right.
We've got over 300 videos on YouTube. Like there's no fee for that. You could go watch every one of these and you would learn things that would change your life. But when we get into the space, when I get into the space of, well, I need to make money and I'm going to do this for money and like, or whatever, or my ego or my attention, it all shuts down. When I get back into the space of service, like Ryan said, miracles happen. Unexplainable things happen.
So I've got a good friend, a really good friend of mine, and um, I'm very grateful he came into my life. And I'm just going to share this really quick story because of what you're talking about right there. He was driving for Uber 2 years ago, got in an accident, and he ended up working and doing some business, multi-level marketing thing online and stuff. But he didn't want to go back and do Uber. He was out in California, rent out there is expensive, and just trying to survive and make it out there, right? Anyways, I seen yesterday a private shot of his account, and just in cryptocurrencies alone, he's worth $1.8 million today, 2 years later. And it wasn't because he did jump in and he just started making things happen, but he did it from a place of helping other people. He started to attract the right people and started networking with the right people, and actually ended up doing other business deals that helped move him in a different direction from that company he was dealing with, where he's in these other spaces now. And he's raised his vibrations, but he's done it out of goodness of his heart. And his name's Rudy Solaya, so I'm going to put out a thank you to him because he's a great friend. He's been humble. He's opened his home up to me before. I've gone out and stayed at his place. And he also, too, one of the events, the companies we both were partnered in with, I actually quit my job because they told me, no, I couldn't go to an event. I said, okay, well, that sucks. I quit and went to Palm Springs, California to go to this event that I was able to speak at, which was really cool. But that's where our first initial meeting was, but we met on Facebook. Like, that's how powerful things are. And if you put those vibrations out there, you will attract the people in your life to help each other go to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's why putting things down, I'm just going to put this out there, but it's important to write things down. Whether you're texting it in your phone in your notes or you're actually writing it on paper, whatever the case may be, but you've got to be putting down what you want to accomplish. What are the things you want to attract in your life? If you're not putting that stuff out there, like, all you're doing is burying it. And it's just like that. The wealthiest place in the world isn't any country in there. It's our graveyards. People take their ideas or take their inspirations, their aspirations, and they take them to their graves and they die with them. Imagine if those people that opened up and let out and actually raised their vibrations and went out there and connected with people, what different things or how things could be in society today that would be so phenomenal. And those are held. We'll never get those ideas from those people that took them with them to their grave. Don't be that person. We got to we got to be a light for each other, and we got to raise those vibrations. We only have one life.
We're coming to the end of the show here, so I love this. I mean, if we had a wrap up thought from each of you, just a quick thought, wrapping up this whole conversation around developing your mind and raising your vibration, what would that be? Ryan, do you want to?
I'll go quick because I want JD's thoughts on this. But and just knowing JD in a short period of time and watching his story with the other side of addiction and how he came across Al and that whole thing and put the intention out there that, hey, I want to be a co-host on your show, and having that come to fruition, and then doing events and meeting all these people and networking. I've watched him raise his vibration, and he already had a high vibration. And he's going to continue. I know he's going to help thousands and thousands, if not millions of lives, because he has a personal inner commitment to do that and to give. I know his heart. I can see it. I can feel it. I know those at home can see it and feel it as well. He's just down to earth, loving, caring. And so, JD, I appreciate you for living into your giant potential, man. You're doing a great job.
No, I appreciate it. There's two important days in our lives, and it's the day that you're born, and it's the day you find out why you're here. And I believe my purpose is to help people. Like, I truly do. From the bottom of my heart, I want to be able to go out and help people and encourage people and change their lives, you know. And if I only change one, that's still all worth it. But if I can change the lives of millions of people and be able to be that aspiration, that leader, you know, and develop other leaders to be able to go out and do the same thing and help, that's just what it's about, man. It's about helping people. And
Well,
so
you've done
I'll
it because
leave.
you've changed my life. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well,
So
as
I'll
we
leave
wrap,
it. I'll leave it with this to wrap it up. But
real
the
quick,
biggest
because
thing
we're over.
is believe in yourself. That's it. No one's gonna believe in yourself more than you will.
That's perfect. For those that are watching or listening, thanks for being a part of this show. As always, you can join us over at Wake Up with Giants TV on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed there, and follow us, the Tribe of Giants on Facebook, and catch more awesome content like this. Till next time, thanks for being a part of this. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. We'll see you in the next episode.
Love you too.
Love you guys.
Okay, I'm going to keep it going for a minute. I mean,
Perfect.
we're ending on the radio show there. I have to do that for the show because we're limited on time there, but we're not done. So for a minute. And so for those that are watching, this will be kind of the after show. And Melissa, you can hopefully edit this out if, you know, from the radio show if you need, but you know, the sharings today of, you know, how the body works and trusting that believe in yourself. I want to pick up on that just a minute if we can. You know, believing in yourself. Yeah. Do you want to continue that thought? I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to for the show.
No,
but go ahead and finish that out.
So believing in yourself, man. I mean, there's so many times and stuff where everybody wants acceptance. That's what a lot of people strive for that. You know, you want your parents to accept you for who you are and what you're doing. You want your significant other to do the same. You want your kids, your family, your friends to just accept you. And that's where people will fall into peer pressure and stuff. And then people have an idea, and they'll get a lot of people, naysayers, even their own family will be like, yeah, you can't do that, or, you know, good luck, you know, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of that goes around, and it's because misery loves company. And people need to understand that at the end of the day, are they living their life for that person, or are they living their life for themselves? Do they believe in themselves? It doesn't matter what other people believe about you. You are you. You are the one that's going to your grave. They're not going with you. They're not getting in the same box. Sorry, they only make those
be
pretty
awkward.
much. It's usually a one standard size. You know, most sizes
coming in.
I like the swan dive maneuver there, Nick.
Right, but you have to believe in yourself. I mean, how many times? Right. Go over.
I'm going to throw you off on your thoughts.
Just on this right here, you know, again, believing where you're at, you know, there's a thing out there. And I've got people that'll be haters or tell me like, oh, what do you know or anything. It's like, dude, you haven't walked in my shoes. I haven't walked in Nick's shoes. I haven't walked in Ryan's shoes. Like, I know what I know because of what I've been through. And I believe I'm going to go places because I believe in me. I don't give a shit if you don't believe in me. That's fine. You know what I mean? And I'll leave you behind.
Size 11 wide if you want to try some shoes on.
So, but
There's
being
too wide
in that,
for me.
Too wide.
I'm
Keep
not
going.
even. I.
No.
What's the rating on this?
PG-13 and a half.
We try to keep it PG-13, but
so what did you say, Ryan? Too wide for you, right?
Next, 11 wide. It's too
That's
wide.
what she said.
Nick don't believe in the movie.
You could say that.
That's good.
No, you know, like the whole acceptance thing, I feel like at the base of everything, a lot of it's just like, if I look at love, the word love, to me, I see acceptance. Like being loved or loving is just accepting people, you know, exactly as they are, however that looks. And part of that acceptance is sometimes we think that we need the acceptance of others. And, you know, to want it is a different thing, but to think that we need it, I think it can be impactful, but it's not an absolute. However, you know, as I say that, I have thoughts come to mind about the studies that, you know, the monkeys that were taken from their moms, and they were given wire frames to hug or carpeting to hug, back in the 50s and 60s, where they could torture animals, and how impactful it was to be away from their parent, and how they started to develop depression and other things. And so that acceptance is impactful. If you grow up in an environment that you feel neglected, you're going to show up a different way. You're going to show up traumatized a little bit. So I kind of go back on my words a little bit here, is that acceptance is important, but it's not an absolute. Like, you could still accept yourself. If you can't get acceptance from somebody else, at least start with yourself.
Right. Well, and it goes in with the acceptance, and the acceptance goes with recognition. I mean, how good does it feel when somebody comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, Nick, Brian, thank you guys for being such stand-up employees. You guys have done good. You guys have killed it this year," or "Thank you for fixing that," or "Thank you for doing this," or that recognition. A lot of people strive to have that recognition, and when people don't get it, or they don't feel like, there's a lot of people that when we don't get it, we actually get down on ourselves, because it's like you feel like you did a good job, or you did something, like you're like, "Oh man, I cleaned this so perfect. Like, there's no way they can't not say anything about it," and they don't say anything about it. And you're like, "Well, that was a freaking waste of time." Like, and then you start getting down on yourself, and you start talking shit about that person when they might have had something else going on in their mind, or whatever the case may be. But it rips you down because you're trying to get that recognition. And this is where it goes into believing in yourself. You're going to have people that don't believe in what you're doing. You're going to have people that don't give you the recognition that you feel you deserve. And actually, when you make it to that point, then you're going to have the people saying that you just got lucky.
Yeah.
You just got lucky.
Okay,
That's
so
how it goes.
There's a term in German called Schadenfreude, and they have a word for it. Nobody else has a word for it. We know what it is as a concept, but Schadenfreude is finding joy in the demise of others. And there are people in the world that do find peace and joy in that,
Oh yeah, they're called trolls.
Yeah. So we got a few minutes here, and then we gotta wrap up the show. But any other thoughts that you feel you wanted to share that you didn't get to share?
Yeah, like I said,
yeah,
being able to help and stuff. If I had to take it out for people, look up the 5-second rule on YouTube. Find, I'm sure you can find a PDF to download and stuff.
I practice it often with food.
So hey, that works.
Yeah.
But writing things down, you have to get things out on paper, even if it's not just writing down your goals and stuff, but write down what you're feeling, a journal or anything like that. Things are important. If you're not getting it out and you're holding everything in, it's only you it's your journey. Each of our journeys are independent. They're individual. And we might be on journeys with other people that seem like they're in similar paths, but at the end of the day, Nick, Ryan, myself, everybody that's listening to this, you're going to end at your own finish line. It's your own. It's your name on the banner when you cross it. It's not Nick's. It's not Ryan's. Unless you work for a company and you die there at that company and you made the CEO rich as shit, like, yeah, you might run past his name, but most of the time we're on a journey for ourselves, and recognizing that journey, and that's your name, it's your life, and you have one of them. Why take the option to go down the road? We are going to have challenges, but recognize it. Go after who you are. Go after, find out who you are, and accept you for you. Doesn't matter who or what anybody else says. Doesn't matter. You are you. You were put here for a reason. God gave you a gift. Go out and find it, discover it, use it. 96% of people do not do that.
It's perfect.
Bingo. Jinx.
Okay, man. Thank you. JD, thank you, man. For those that are watching, thank you. We will catch you on the next episode Sunday morning. We've got another great show coming up. Is it Shauna Lee on this Sunday?
Mm-hmm. The great Shauna Lee.
The following week, we got another radio guest, and Daniel Olexa will be joining us the following week on Halloween. And so just keep following us. If you know people that would benefit from this message, make sure you share it. JD, what?
I should have came on with my Michael Myers mask, man. I totally screwed up.
We'll have you back.
Yeah. Cool. Everybody, thanks for being here. Remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Make it a giant night, and we'll see you in the next video.
Love you too.
Thanks, guys.